Welcome into the Grown Man's Podcast, episode 44. And boy, do we have a wonderful show for you tonight. We have new things coming. We're going to do 2 episodes this week. We're going to get back on that train. We have lots of news, things to go over. Early playoff teams, early free agents, whiskey tasting. It's all here at the Grown Man's Podcast. As always, my co-host, Tommy's not sitting across from me for the 3rd straight week as we are dealing with the fallout of COVID-19. So I can't see your face. I can't see how you look. But how you doing?
Dude, I look absolutely disheveled, Hattie. You'd be puking where you stood if you saw me right now. It'd be awful.
You were telling me you weren't feeling so great this week.
Oh no! This after we recorded last week. I don't think I shared any of this really with the folks that were our listeners, but I was dealing with some sickness since I've been back from my cruise, and it really peaked over the last week. So it was not a great situation, to be perfectly honest with you. I was having feverish symptoms. I was having shortness of breath, and I'll be honest with you, I was about 95% sure that I had the coronavirus. I'm not 100% certain at this point still that I didn't have it, but my niece, who I was waiting to hear back from to see whether or not she was positive, because she was tested as soon as we got back with coronavirus-like symptoms, and that came back negative, fortunately. So,
well, that is a plus there.
Yes, and I am now feeling better, so there's not a real big need for me to go get tested at this point. It just took a very long time for her test to come back. It was like 11 days or something crazy like that. So
wow,
we were all,
that is crazy.
Yeah, we were all in an extreme quarantine situation, exhibiting all of our social responsibility, like all of you guys out there should be doing. Doing our best to stay home as much as possible, and when we did have to go out, washing, sanitizing, using face covers and all that good stuff.
Yep, being as careful as possible is all very good thing in these times.
Yep.
Around the world, actually. I went to the store today because I needed to get a couple things, and it's just a weird feeling going to the store these days. Like everyone looks at you, think if with the eyes of like, is that the one that's actually sick? And you're thinking the same thing, even though you're not thinking it. You are. Oh yeah. You're just trying to stay away from people, and
for sure,
definitely a weird situation.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely crazy, and like we said, this is the 3rd week in a row that we have been apart doing it, kind of across town podcasting.
Yeah,
kind of different.
Kind of like everybody who's in the entertainment world right now is kind of doing a little bit of a different thing right now.
Yeah, I listen to a couple podcasts, and I watch like a couple people on YouTube every once in a while, and they all do the same thing.
Yep.
Like you see people like just filming in their houses, and the podcasts I listen to are all, kind of like what we're doing. Like everyone gets tied together, and you do the best that you can.
Yep. Even people like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, like all those guys even are recording from home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, and all those people are all from their houses, and
it's amazing.
They have video, and
it's amazing
stuff,
how much effort must go into making these people look pretty with the makeup, because let me tell you, without having these people there to do their makeup, they are some haggard looking people that are looking real presentable on television.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have the studio lighting and all that kind of stuff.
That's
either.
True.
I mean, the camera setup's probably a little bit different, and that I can tell you, lighting makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah,
when it comes to a professional looking thing. But obviously, they have makeup artists and stuff behind the scene as well. So
I know, but I'm just saying, like, for it to be that big of a drastic change is like, hey, you guys are almost as mortal as we are, with your skin blemishes and your bags under your eyes and all that good stuff. It makes me feel a little better that there's maybe not quite such a gap between the beautiful people and us lowly regular folk.
Hey, they have some good makeup artists making them look presentable each and every day.
What I gotta do is
do their thing.
I gotta get me one of those, Hattie.
I know.
Yeah.
Hey, if we ever, that's one of the nice things about just doing a podcast is we don't have to get all prettied up or make-upped up, special studio lighting. Don't need any of it.
But Hattie, I want to look good for you.
That is true. Yeah. All we need is our ugly selves behind the mic, and we'll do just fine.
Well, then we're probably all set on that end then.
But talking about doing just fine, this podcast is actually sponsored by Manscaped. Would you have anything to say about that?
We'll just take a second to tell you guys about them and the great products they have. And support for the Grown Man's podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. So I will say, the stuff that they sent us is some really quality stuff. I was actually very surprised. I got it. They sent it to my place, so I got the first look at it, and I gave it a try. I'll tell you, the buzzer that they send you, the Lawnmower 3.0, it's kind of nice. I'm a man of generous carriage, so to have a product that's got a light on it, that's nice for getting into those areas where it might be a little bit harder to see. The
nooks and crannies.
Oh yeah, and it's a nice smooth buzzing. And they send you some toner for your balls and all kinds of stuff. The deodorant, the ball deodorant, I got to tell you, I think is my favorite thing. It's like,
yeah, it's pretty nice. I tried it.
You think about it. You deodorize your arms. Why in the heck would you not deodorize probably the smelliest part of your entire body? And it's an area. Yeah. It's an area of your body that you really want to have, in a nice presentable, shape, for when that time of the day comes around. So, I'll just say it's a great care package they sent us. It's definitely something that you guys should check out. But I'll get back into the ad read here. The electric lawnmower 3.0. It's the third generation trimmer. Features a cutting edge with ceramic blades to prevent any kind of manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick free thanks to Manscaped, their advanced technology. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. So when I tell you that this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. You can linger a little bit in the bathroom, get away from the kids, and just take a little bit of you time. Make sure that you get all the bits and berries cleaned up. But one of the coolest features is it does have an LED, like I said, which illuminates the grooming area for a closer and more precise trimming experience. They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. So, if you don't necessarily want to let people know that you're taking care of that, like for instance, if the mood's about to strike and you want to go do a little bit of last minute yard work, you could take the lawnmower into the bathroom and get it done without anybody knowing about it. But I do want to make sure that we give the folks at home a promo code for our podcast specifically. It is grown, just the word grown. Okay. And if you use that promo code, you will get a 20% off your total order cost as well as free shipping. So go to manscaped.com and use the promo code GROWN and your balls will thank you.
Yeah. That fits really well into it, actually. I mean, you can sit down with your nice glass of whiskey, listen to the Grown Man's podcast, just let the old yard just grow a little bit and go on over to Grown Manscaped over there and take care of that.
Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. So
I like that code name. I actually do like that.
Yeah.
I like that code.
They asked me what I wanted to use, and I thought long and hard about it, and I eventually came back to Grown because it was simple. We could have gone probably with Grown Man's podcast, but I thought that was kind of long, and I don't know.
Yeah. Grown's easy to remember.
Yeah, nice and simple. So go over to manscaped.com. They got a lot of stuff over there, guys, and they're going to be sponsoring the podcast here for the next month or so. So all the support that you give to the people who are supporting us, we really appreciate. And it is really genuinely high-quality stuff. We're not just saying that because they're sponsoring us. I was genuinely blown away with how high quality the stuff was and how good the deodorant, all that kind of stuff smelled. They've got some really, really nice products. So I wouldn't be going on this long about it if it was not for the fact that I actually do like their products. So make sure you do check them out.
Yeah, I liked it myself as well. But talking about sponsors and everything, we'd like to give a shout out to all those who support us on Patreon. Thank you very much. You are the lifeblood of the show. We love your interaction with us. And if you would like to support the podcast on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com /grownmanspodcast and also interact with us on Twitter as well. And that's at Grown Man's Pod.
Yep.
So what about we get into some news now? We got a few news items here this week that we didn't able to cover last week, and a few different ones. But we'll get into that a little bit later. What's the first one that you got over there?
First one's kind of connected to one that you got there, but my first news item I have listed here is Robbie Anderson has signed a contract. It happened mid last week, I believe, and he has signed with the Carolina Panthers. He has gone home to a scenario or coaching situation that he was familiar with Matt Rule. He worked with him at Temple. So Robbie Anderson will be catching balls from Teddy Bridgewater this year, and I think that's a pretty good fit. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater has the arm strength to get it out there to really utilize a deep threat like Robbie Anderson. But Robbie Anderson's got great hands, and I think he can improve his route tree. So he's not going to be a number one there, but they have a lot of assets already. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets fit in there, but I would anticipate him being a similar role as what he was in New York.
Yeah, he worries me a little bit in Carolina with Teddy Bridgewater, because Bridgewater hasn't been the most accurate quarterback since he's been in the league,
or a deep threat,
or a deep threat,
right?
And Robbie Anderson is kind of a rough route runner. He's not as polished as a lot of other receivers are. I don't know
if I'd say he's a rough route. He's got a limited route tree. I would say the routes he runs are not, are pretty decent routes, but they used them for a lot of, just go routes and stuff like that. They didn't really expand on his, like within 15-yard route options.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not super high on the Panthers. I'm not high on the Panthers as a team regardless this year with really. Teddy Bridgewater, and, they lost Greg Olsen, and they have Christian McCaffrey, and that's really the only person on offense that you're really scared about over there. But it was a cheap fit. I'm surprised a lot of other teams. If Robbie Anderson really only wanted $10 million a year, which is the deal he got with the Panthers, I'm surprised the Jets didn't keep him, or another team that is wide receiver needy going after him for that price. I'm kind of shocked, actually.
Well, yeah, I remember at one point me and you spent a little bit of time going through and looking at the comparable wide receivers in the league and what contracts they were having. We kind of anticipated prior to free agency starting he was probably going to get somewhere in the $12 million range, $10 to $12 million. We were pretty close as far as what our anticipation was for him and what his annual salary was going to be. But yeah, I would agree. I would have liked to have seen the Jets keep him for $10 million for 2 years, $20 million 2 years, so $10 million a year. But who knows what actually happened there. I've heard reports from Boomer Esiason that the Jets offered him 4 years for $40 million, and he turned it down. He wanted to kind of try to gamble on himself and see if he could go to Carolina, have a couple good years, and test the free agency market again. And then I also have heard
that's what a lot of players do these days.
Yeah, but I also heard, I think it was from his agent on Twitter, said no way, if they had offered 4 for $40, they would have taken that for sure. So who the heck knows? A lot of times a team will come out after the fact and say, we offered this contract and we just weren't able to keep them, just to kind of appease the fan base. Who the heck knows what actually happened? What actually happened is Robbie Anderson is no longer a Jet, and the price that it took to get him to leave the Jets was 2 for $20. I would have liked to have seen the Jets keep him for that amount. I think he was worth that amount. I think that's a very reasonable contract for Robbie Anderson, especially when you consider the development of Sam Darnold and how important that is, and having good options for him. He was somebody I really would have liked to have seen stay on the team for $10 million a year. But he didn't.
Yeah, and the other free agent from the Panthers, Devin Funchess, actually signed with the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if we covered that last week, but
I don't know if we did.
I'm cautiously optimistic about that. I mean, he's a big-bodied guy to go up and get some passes, and I mean, he's definitely better than anything else the Packers had. So I'm pretty happy.
Other than Adams,
with that signing. Yeah. Well, other than their number one, Adams,
yeah. But you still got to be kind of disappointed with how the Packers handled their free agency period here with trying to get some help for Aaron Rodgers. It's still even though
they didn't do anything on offense,
right? It's just disappointing. I mean, they knew going into this year that they needed to get him some help. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is getting older. His window is closing. You got to get the guy some weapons.
Yeah, I think they're going to get a first or second round wide receiver, and I think they could have a trick or two up their sleeve when it comes to maybe a draft day trade or something.
Any speculation?
No, I just know that Brian, the GM over there for the Packers, he's done a lot of trades the first 2 years since he's been there. He's traded on day one of draft day, both of his 2 years. So I think they're going to do it again. They're in the 30th spot, I think, in the first round. So I can see him trading back or trading up to get a person that they really want, or trading back to get value. Or maybe they package it and get, some wide receiver that's on the trade block. I mean, it's rumored that Odell Beckham is on the trade block, and there's a couple other ones that they could potentially go out and get. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It'll be an interesting one to watch as it develops.
Yeah. I mean, I hope we get at least one more weapon.
You have to.
On the offense. I think we really need to.
Yeah. All right. What do you have next?
My next one is a Packers wide receiver. Geronimo Allison has been signed by their division rival, the Detroit Lions. So,
any concern there?
Geronimo Allison. No, I mean he's a fair wide receiver. He's a wide receiver 3 or 4. He's okay.
Yeah.
I mean that's not really a big signing.
Yeah. Okay. And Travis Benjamin, formerly with the Chargers, has signed with the 49ers. So. Again, I don't know how. I think he's kind of replacing the Emmanuel Sanders leaving scenario.
Yeah.
The Chargers are going to be a bit of a hot mess this year, I think, with having a long-term benchmark like Phillip Rivers leaving the building. I think that organization is going to struggle a little bit to kind of pick up the pieces with that happening. So I think he's probably getting out of there at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, they lost Phillip Rivers and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah,
so,
but they kept Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler was a much better option for him last year.
They did.
So
they did. My next one is tight end Eric Ebron has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He'd signed a 2-year, $12 million deal. He was probably the last decent to good wide tight end left on the free agent market, and the Steelers went and got him and trying to get Big Ben a little bit more help.
Yep.
He's getting a little bit older too. He's coming off an injury last year. So, I mean, Steelers have always liked their tight ends and doing a lot of different things with them in the passing and running game. They use them a lot as the blockers. They use a lot of tight end. I keep saying wide receiver. 2 tight end sets to give a little bit more protection, and then they fade him out, which that's right up Eric Ebron's skill set. So I think he's a good fit there.
Yep. All right. Nicole Roby-Coleman has signed with the Eagles. He was the player from the Saints with the no call. Back against who was it? Against the Rams. The Rams. A scenario where got a little bit of infamy around him, maybe playing a little bit too aggressive, but I don't know how big of a signing it is, but he has signed with the Eagles.
He's a pretty decent corner.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Yeah, he's an average corner. He's pretty good. He can cover a number 2 or a number 3 in the slot.
Yep.
For no problem.
Yep.
Yeah. My next one, Cam Newton. Finally released earlier this week. It was after the podcast last week. Released from the Carolina Panthers. He's been a long stay there. Took him to the Super Bowl. Was the NFL MVP in his second year, I believe. Just kind of injury prone and not really living up to expectations the last few years there in Carolina. Ron Rivera left to go to the Redskins. They finally released him. We're going to talk about in next week's podcast of where we think he might land.
Yeah.
But yeah, they finally cut him.
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, follow us on Twitter, I should say, then you may have caught last week when this happened that I can't really stand on the table and say that I hate the decision to cut Cam Newton, but I also, in the bottom of my stomach, have this feeling that this is going to be a big mistake for the Carolina Panthers. I have, with the injury problems that they've had with Teddy Bridgewater, you can't possibly be 100% sure that his knee is fine and that you are going to have him as a quarterback all season long. And I could just see a scenario where he gets injured and they're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to find somebody to be playing for them. And Cam Newton, yes, he has had inaccuracy problems. He has had injury problems. He has had attitude problems. I'm not saying that Cam Newton doesn't come with his share of problems. He does. But what I am saying is that there's a high likelihood, in my opinion, that he is going to get like when a girl gets dumped and she loses a bunch of weight and goes into full on I'm gonna get you back mode and goes and gets the nice dress and gets a hot new boyfriend kind of thing. I think Cam Newton's gonna go get a hot new boyfriend. Ultimately, is what I'm driving at here. I think he's probably also going to get a nice new dress, But that part, I mean, literally, Cam Newton probably actually will go get a nice new dress because he's kind of got some weird fashion sense. And I think he's going
to get a nice new hat.
Definitely a nice new hat. Yeah, something that would make my grandmother proud. And I think he's going to end up somewheres like a Chargers situation, possibly even Patriots scenario. And I think if he ended up on the Patriots, I think that's the most dangerous place for Cam Newton to land. I'd be very upset if he ended up there because I think with Bill Belichick and him together, I think that they could become a contender again in the AFC East. And obviously I don't want that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird that usually when you change directions in a franchise or you get rid of a high-profile player, which you can say Cam Newton is, usually it's because you're changing direction. Mm-hmm. You're going some other way with the offense. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is that much of a difference than Cam Newton. They want to do option stuff. They want to be able to run with the quarterback. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's there, so they're going to run the ball a lot and do a lot of dump-offs and the trickery that they do with Christian McCaffrey. So it's not a new direction, and I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is a step up over Cam Newton. I think it's a decisive step down. So I don't really know what they're thinking. I mean, it's not like they're getting injury insurance or anything because Teddy Bridgewater has himself been injured a lot.
Right.
So I really don't understand the thinking behind releasing Cam Newton and going out and getting Teddy Bridgewater and then giving Teddy Bridgewater $20 million a year. I just don't really get the reasoning behind the decision of why they did that.
Yeah, it's a bit ponderous, really. And when Cam Newton's good, Cam Newton's very good. You don't want Cam Newton to go off and be really good if you are Matt Rule and David Kemper, whatever the heck the new owner is there for the Panthers. David Temper, is it Temper? Something like that. Anyway, he wanted to kind of burn it all down and start back over again. That's why he got rid of Rivera. That's why he, probably had him get rid of Cam. He wants to put his own name on what's going on there. But if everything goes sideways, then that's when you get into issues where the fan base starts really turning on you and getting rid of the franchise quarterback that you thought you had to sign Teddy Bridgewater. That's a quick way to really put yourself out there, and you better be right about the decisions that you made, because if you're wrong, then you're really wrong, and you're going to have a lot to answer for.
I think Carolina's going to be in full-on rebuilding mode in a year or two.
I don't think
that's the thing. Like with Cam Newton, you are a few pieces away from being a team that could contend for the playoffs,
especially with Christian McCaffrey.
I think letting him go and going with Teddy Bridgewater, and they've let a few other little pieces go here and there. Like Devin Funchess has left. There's a couple defenders that have left, and it's just they were a couple pieces away from being a very good team and being in the playoffs. And now, like, you are one piece away. If Teddy Bridgewater does not work out there, which I don't think he will.
I mean, he's at least got
right back into rebuild mode.
He's at least got a considerable, likelihood. I mean, it's not like it's a far cry or a big stretch of the imagination to imagine a scenario where Teddy Bridgewater doesn't work out there. And I'm not a Teddy Bridgewater hater by any means. I mean, I like Teddy Bridgewater.
No, I like Teddy Bridgewater too.
Yeah, but I don't see it being a smart. I don't think that halfway through the 2020 season, people are going to be like, yeah, they were definitely right to get rid of Cam Newton when they did.
Yep. And the thing is, it's like if you do struggle and Cam Newton gets injured and you have a terrible year, you have Christian McCaffrey who's coming into his prime. You know how running backs don't get paid in this league, where if you're coming off your rookie contract, does he stay with the Panthers if they're a dumpster fire and they're rebuilding? I don't think he does. Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to go out and you want to get a big contract. You don't want to be running for a team that's full on rebuilding. And if the Panthers really do have to rebuild, then I mean, you let him walk. And you just lost a former quarterback that has taken you to the Super Bowl, an MVP, and you lost one of the top 3 running backs in the league in a couple years, and that's, you never want to see that for a franchise.
Well, here's the other side of that. If you're the Carolina Panthers, are you going to pay Christian McCaffrey?
Not if you're in full-on rebuild mode.
I mean, even if you're not, I mean, are you going to give Christian McCaffrey a 4 or 5 year mega contract? I'm not.
I mean,
look,
with the talent of Christian McCaffrey, I think you almost have to give him a decent deal.
I don't know, man. The way that running backs, especially a running back like Christian McCaffrey, who gets pounded into the ground, I mean, he's going to have a lot of miles on those tires by the time his 5 years is up.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I think agents and running backs know kind of their value in the league, and that's why we've seen Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, and a couple of those guys who did get like a big contract and then got cut before the end of that contract, are taking a little bit lesser of deals, even though they still have talent.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that on the Thursday show about where we think Cam Newton's going to end up. But we'll get to that on the Thursday show.
All right.
Next item up here, I have Ronald Darby, another fairly decent, consistent cornerback in the league. Signed a 1 year, $4 million deal with the Redskins. I think that's a pretty good, team friendly deal. 1 year, $4 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not bad at all for a cornerback,
especially with the Redskins. I mean, the Redskins have a hard time keeping their own players, let alone getting other free agents to come and sign with them. So, if I was a Redskins fan, I'd be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I think Ron Rivera has helped out a little bit in the recruiting of free agents and bringing a little bit of stability there at the head coach spot.
Yeah.
All right, my next one is a little Tom Brady. As we know, he's been signed with the Buccaneers. It just is kind of fitting that Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, they already had the TB for Tom Brady and the TB for Tampa Bay. He has trademarked TBXTB. What do you think about that?
I think that's so stupid. Like, what is with Tom Brady and the Patriots in thinking that they have to trademark every stupid thing that pops into their head or pops out of their mouth? Like these stupid slogans with the Patriots, like get to work and no days off. And like, it's enough with that crap. Now, like, he's got to try to trademark TBXTB. Like, it's just so dumb. Like, why? Who do you think wants to use that?
I mean, if you're a Tampa Bay fan and you just got Tom Brady and there's a T-shirt that says TBXTB, I mean that's gonna sell. it is.
Okay, but yes, it very well may. But don't you want like why are you trying to make an extra, like, I mean, legitimately, how much money is going to be made on T-shirts that say TBXTB? That he was like, me, a a wildly successful, quarterback in the National Football League who just signed a $50 million guaranteed contract, who's married to a woman who makes even more money than I do. Why do I feel the need to go out and trademark something so that t-shirt people can't make an extra $12,000, off of some t-shirt sales? Like why, that's what I'm driving at here is why is he so greedy that those extra, $20,000 in t-shirt sales are that important to him that he would go through the process of creating and trademarking a TBXTB? Because here's the thing, if he trademarks that, now all they have to do is just do like TB to the power of TB, or TB squared, or, whatever. It's just stupid.
I don't hate it. I mean, people are going to trademark their name and likeness and sayings and stuff. That happens all the time.
He's not, but that's it. He's not trademarking his name. I never criticize him for trademarking the TB12, logo, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. TB12, that's a brand. It's his initials and his number. It's kind of the sphere around Tom Brady. TB12, fine. That makes sense. However, the TBXTB, moniker, that's a very specific thing that very few people are going to want to use. It's only going to be Tampa Bay fans in Tampa Bay. Like, what are you protecting?
I don't hate it.
You don't get to protect TB for Tampa Bay. You only get to protect TB for your name, which even still is stupid. I hate it.
That's true.
I hate it. I think Tom Brady's an idiot for doing it.
All right. Well, I don't hate it, but what's your next item there?
Next item up, the Cowboys, in the news, as they usually try to be, have signed Greg Zuerlein, kicker, Greg the Leg, 3 years, $7.5 million, which wouldn't normally be that big of news, kicker signing. But they already had just signed Kai Forbath to a deal. So I know that Kai's deal was not as as big of a deal as what they just signed Greg Zuerlein to. It just seems a little bit strange to me. Kai Forbath had already, done some nice kicking work for him last year, and now they are, now they're pulling this move. They're bringing in another kicker. I mean, but they haven't released Kai Forbath. They got both the kickers on the thing on their roster now. It's just a little bit perplexing.
Kicking competition.
I guess so, but I mean,
Jerry Jones is just trying to give any player a contract that's not named Dak Prescott.
I guess. Seriously though, I mean, he actually like he legitimately will give money to anybody that is not Dak Prescott. It's almost like a slap in the face to Dak Prescott, isn't it? He's like, we already have a kicker that we like under contract, and we're going to go out and pay another kicker that we don't even need because we care about money that little. But yeah, no, Dak, we do not have unfortunately, the money's a little bit tight around here, and we don't have the ability to just give you a contract right now. But we're gonna have.
I think we talked about this a little bit. I think Dak is asking for astronomical money that he is not worth.
He was,
and
yes.
They're being careful.
Yes, I mean that's true.
Yep. So my next one is this is groundbreaking, earth-shattering news.
What?
There are rumors that the Bengals want to keep Andy Dalton.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, does that affect the upcoming draft with Joe Burrow? Do they keep them both? They just keep him as a veteran quarterback to back up Joe, or do they start Andy Dalton and let Joe sit for a few games before they start him?
Yeah, I kind of heard some rumors about the possibility of this. I don't think this affects at all the draft prospect, the way they approach the draft with the number 1 overall pick. I think they still have to take Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa, excuse me, whichever one they like best. It would be a scenario where I think that the entire fan base would probably burn down the facility if they do not go and pick a first-round quarterback with that first overall pick. But I do think that they are probably trying to give him a little bit of a buffer in case whoever they bring in struggles a little bit so that they don't have to throw him out to the wolves necessarily. I don't think it's an awful idea from the aspect of looking at it as a developing of the quarterback scenario and insulating them from danger, or worry about getting off on the wrong foot with the fan base. Maybe, say you have a couple of major offensive line injuries, in training camp. Do you really want to put your brand new shiny quarterback who's not really experienced behind that crappy offensive line for the first couple of games until they get, better? Probably not, I
think
it's not good for Andy Dalton though to do that to him.
Yeah, I don't know why Andy Dalton would go back there, to be honest.
Well, he's still under contract. He's still under contract for this year for $17 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
That's 17 million good reasons.
Yeah, it's not for a lack of money, that he would go back, or would have a problem with it. Obviously it's not. He's going into a situation where he is not going to be the presumed starter for the season, and that would be hard for somebody who has been the presumed starter for a franchise. I could imagine that could cause some issues and maybe some bad juju. I don't know, but. I think it's smart from a team perspective. I just think it's maybe a little bit disrespectful to the player Andy Dalton, considering that you're about to kick him to the curb. You're just doing this to make sure that whoever you bring in is 100% ready to go. It's like, I mean, it takes I don't know. I guess I'd say it takes it takes a good set of balls to do something like that to somebody who you've been working with for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of good years with the Bengals, and he's taken them to playoffs several years, and I mean, he's had a lot of good seasons.
Yes.
I mean, the team wasn't that great the last 2 or 3 years, so I mean, you can't put it all on Andy Dalton. I mean, even though his numbers, weren't the greatest the llast few years, but I mean, that's not
Neither was
all
the team.
on him. Yeah, right. And coaching has had turnover, and the team's had turnover, and you just can't blame it all on Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a lot of good years. He's been there for a long, long time. Just to hold on to him, I think the classy thing to do would be try to get him to another team in a better situation where he could actually play. Yeah,
but do you do that if you think that you are going to be disadvantaging the team and or the new quarterback you're bringing in?
Here's the thing with that. I mean, if they there's no secret that the Bengals are rebuilding. If Joe Burrow or whoever they get in the draft, they bring them in, they're not ready to go.
Yep.
Is the team going to make the playoffs with Andy Dalton?
No, of course not.
The answer is probably no. So, I mean, if you're not making the playoffs anyway, why not try to get him into a better position and respect the player that he was and what he has done for Cincinnati, and try your other guys. I mean, you don't just obviously have a backup. I don't know who that is at the current moment. I mean, he could play. I mean, you could throw your rookie in there and just see what he has and do some simple stuff. I mean, you're not going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl anyway. So what does it matter?
Well,
why are you just going to throw Andy Dalton in there for a few games that not put him in a good situation? You're not going to win games anyway.
Well, what I would say to that is that the reason that you would do that is because the first year for a quarterback, a rookie year for a quarterback, the success is not dictated or not determined by whether or not you make the playoffs that first year. The success of a rookie quarterback is determined by how much hope a fan base has and how bright the future looks. Like, for instance, you look at Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns after his rookie year, right? Did they make the playoffs that year, Baker's rookie year? No, they did not. But was Baker's rookie year a success? Yes, it was, because at the end of that year, Baker had won over the fan base, had looked like a competent quarterback. He was confident, and he didn't start that year, the very beginning of the year. He played behind Tyrod Taylor that year to start, and he didn't come in until, after Tyrod Taylor had kind of lost the starting job by his play, and the fan base was clamoring for Baker. And so I think that the metrics by which you are going to judge that rookie quarterback are different than they will be for every preceding year, pretty much. And so, you keep a quarterback like a tenured, capable quarterback like Andy Dalton so that you can show him how to prepare for games, how to be a leader in the locker room, those kinds of things. And if they really like Andy Dalton for those reasons, but they just know that they have to move on from him, then, maybe that's a reason you keep him.
Yeah, I think they should just be honest and open with Andy Dalton and the Bengals organization. And, if the Bengals are going to keep him, make sure that's what Andy Dalton wants to do and be very clear, what your plans are and what you are going to do. And if Andy agrees to that, great. And if he doesn't, then, try to do something with him.
Yeah. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there and how the dynamics of that situation work themselves out to be. Yep. But next item I have up here, Xavier Rhodes was unexpectedly cut by the Vikings this year and has signed what is expected to be or thought to be a 1-year, $5 million contract with some possible incentives with the Colts. So the Colts are, they're starting to get into the money spending business there. They've been trying to save up on their free age or their cap space there. They didn't spend a whole lot last year. Started to spend a little bit. I don't know if Xavier Rhodes is a cornerback that I would have spent money on if I were them. For the same.
I mean, that's a pretty decent deal for a cornerback of his talent. I mean, he's not going to be covering the number one, so
that's true. But the Colts,
I think that's a solid pickup.
The Colts just cut Pierre Desir, who signed a 1-year, $5 million contract with the Jets, and I would much rather have Pierre Desir than I would rather have Xavier Rhodes. Personally, anyway. It seems like a backwards move to me. I was pretty happy when the Jets got Desir for a cornerback, but I don't know. I guess maybe the Colts were not as happy with him and want to take a flyer on Rhodes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, $5 million is kind of you're filling positions and stuff, so it's not a huge.
It's not
a huge thing. You're filling out your roster and making sure you have players in positions and giving yourself the best chances when the season comes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to make or break a team, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, you kind of you win seasons based on how good your depth is, and how good the players that are your package guys, your substitution packages and stuff like that are. And I don't know if I would want to ride into the season with Xavier Rhodes over Pierre Desir, but that's me.
All right, was that your last news item, or do you have another one?
I have one more.
All right, you want to do that one?
Yep. I have Lamar Jackson is suing Amazon for them selling items or allowing items to be sold, rather, because Amazon largely is stuff being sold by private sellers. He's suing Amazon for allowing sellers to sell images with his likeness or things that he has said on them. I understand these guys have rights. They have the right to sell these kinds of things. I just don't. It just seems kind of stupid to me when they're making millions of dollars worrying about. I mean, how many T-shirts really are being sold of Lamar Jackson, stuff that he can control? Like, at a certain point, you just have to understand, like, you can't stop the flood. If there's that many bootlegged things being sold with your face on it, with your sayings on it, then that's probably a good thing. Like, that's probably because you're doing really good at football and that you're going to get a big contract, and just like understand the fact that, you're making a lot of money to play a game. Maybe don't be so nitpicky about that kind of stuff.
All right.
What do you think? I don't know. I feel like I'm the one who keeps saying this kind of stuff, but at the end, I mean, they're making a lot of money.
I agree with it. The reason being is you have the license to yourself.
That's true.
If you go out and you design something, say you design a pen, it doesn't matter what it is. You go out and you design it and you market it and you try to sell it and you're doing everything that you can, and then somebody else is just like, well, we're going to make the same thing, or we're going to use the thing that you patent and that you work so hard on, and we're just going to take it and we're going to resell it. I don't think that is right. Yeah,
but in this scenario, I'm a pen maker, right? That's how I make my living, is by making pens. Like, there's not people on Amazon who are imitating Lamar Jackson that are signing contracts with the with the Baltimore Ravens under the guise that they're actually Lamar Jackson. I mean, it'd be like if you were a pen salesman and people really loved your pens and somebody made a t-shirt that was like, Hadsel's pens are the best, you know, and then you were like, hey, don't make a t-shirt with my name on it. You know, that's kind of what it would be like. Yeah,
but I mean, you have the license to yourself in a way.
I'm not saying
somebody else shouldn't be able to make money off of yourself.
I'm not saying that he doesn't have the right to do it. I'm just saying who are you really fighting here? I mean, you're fighting. He's technically suing Amazon, but Amazon, like saying I'm suing eBay because people on eBay are selling stuff. I mean, Amazon is made up of a bunch of private sellers for the most part. And so, like who actually are you going after here? Like, you know, they're probably Baltimore Ravens fans who are selling them to other Baltimore Ravens. Like Lamar Jackson, you're not going to get into the business of selling T-shirts. You know, I mean, like, I don't know. I just find it stupid. I just find it stupid. That was my last one, though.
All right, my last one, we're going to revisit a corner that we haven't visited in a few months, and it's the Antonio Brown corner. He's been shooting some stuff off on Instagram.
As he does.
Recorded by as Antonio Brown does. On the Bleacher Report, he was sounding off on Julio Jones.
What?
He said, yeah. He said, I'm the best receiver in the game.
Oh, my word.
Tell Julio to look up the stats. I got more touchdowns than Julio Jones had in the past 5 years, and I took a year off.
Okay.
Which is true.
I mean, yes.
I don't know if his taking a year off was really taking a year off.
I mean, yes,
he was on a couple teams.
He did not play last year, really. I mean,
but it is true he did not play in the NFL.
I mean, he didn't play in the NFL. He played around a lot with the legal system last year. You know, he appeared in court a couple times. You know, he didn't appear in very many games, just one, I believe. Mm-hmm. What is he going after? What is he going after? Julio Jones? Like, what did Julio Jones do to Antonio Brown?
Probably nothing. It's just Antonio Brown being crazy.
He's like, people are forgetting about me.
The stats are real. He does have more touchdowns than Julio Jones in the past 5 years.
Well,
but I mean, being good at something also means that you need to be reliable to actually be on the field. You could be the best receiver in the league talent-wise. I mean, Antonio Brown could be a top 3 wide receiver. Mm-hmm. He very well still could be. But if you don't put yourself into position to be actually to put those talents out on the field and be able to help a team and actually be able to catch touchdowns, then I mean that goes into it.
You know who else is?
Again, if I'm a pen maker and I'm the best one in the world, but I don't make pens because I do other things and get into trouble and don't make it, then
right.
What matter does it make?
Right. I mean,
none.
It's a scenario. Like Vontaze Burfict, also pretty good at football. You know, I mean. Do I want Vontaze Burfict on my team? Of course not, because he's a degenerate, first of all. And second of all, you can't count on him to be there because he's constantly getting suspended for being a degenerate, you know? And the same thing with Antonio Brown. It's like, yeah, Antonio Brown was great at playing football until he went absolutely crazy and became completely unreliable. And even when he was back with the Steelers, was just not showing up for, you know, practices and games and things like that, even though in the playoffs were on the line. It's like, yeah, you were a great and incredibly talented wide receiver, Antonio Brown. And unfortunately, that matters not at all because you are so toxic that no team wants anything to do with you, which just goes to evidence of how toxic exactly you are, that the talent level that you have is almost unmatched in the league, and yet you can't get a job. So who cares about your stats because they're essentially capped at what you have already gotten done.
Yeah, for sure.
Idiot.
If you're not on the field helping your team, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You've put yourself out of the league, essentially, with his antics and everything that he's done and his attitude. So,
it's like
stay out. Don't attack Julio Jones. He's one of the great ones as well.
It's like the great Bill Parcells used to say, the greatest ability is availability. And he is not available because he's crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's all.
We would like...
No, I was just saying that's all I had.
All right. well, we would like to thank you, dear listeners, for your availability and listening to our podcast. That concludes it for this week. We can stick around after the music for the show after the show, as we are still doing this podcast from across town. We are not doing an official whiskey review, but we will be trying some. We'll have a little discussion in the show after the show, as we always do. I'm trying the George T. Stagg today, which is a Buffalo Trace distillery whiskey. And what do you have?
And I'll tell you that if you try the George T. Stagg whiskey, you're going to want to get that Manscaped stuff that we were talking about, because that stuff puts some hair on your balls, and you're going to need to take that hair off.
It'll definitely grow some hair in places that you might not want.
Yeah, and our buddies over at Manscaped be able to take care of that for you. I will be drinking, I'm going to make them wait until after the music to find out what I'm drinking.
Oh, a little suspense. I like it.
Yeah, you guys got to wait about 30 seconds to find out. So, Hattie, roll the music.
Welcome into the best segment of the show after the show, where we get to taste whiskey, do an official review. But as you know, we are in quarantine and we're across town, so we're not actually doing an official one. But we still are going to drink whiskey, because whiskey is great. And if you're not listening to the Grown Man's Podcast with a little of your favorite maybe alcoholic beverage or adult beverage or any beverage. Yeah. Like really just any beverage, if you're listening to the Grown Man Podcast, is going to be good. As long as you're enjoying it and you're enjoying our podcast, we love it. Oh, yeah. And we thank you for sticking around in the show after the show.
It is better with whiskey, let's be real.
It is better with whiskey. Let's be real. That's what we're talking about here. Talking about a little whiskey. Oh, yeah. Today I'm drinking the George T. Stagg, which is one of the Buffalo Trace Distillery's limited edition whiskeys that's released every year. This is barrel strength. And as we were talking about, this will put hair on your balls, on your chest, everywhere.
It'll put hair everywhere.
Will grow. It'll put it there.
You ever had hair grown out of your eyeballs? Because that's where hair is going to be growing if you drink some George T. Stagg. Oh
yeah, it's a pretty potent whiskey. This particular one, I think this is the 2017 or 2018 edition. It doesn't say on the bottle, but it was 2 or 3 years ago when I got it. It's 128.2 proof.
Yeah, buddy.
So 64.1% alcohol, and it's very good tasting whiskey, but it is strong.
It is incredibly strong. One of these days when I was over at your place and we were doing a podcast, and I don't remember the scenario really, why I was there and looking for another whiskey to try. I can't really recall, to be honest with you. Oh, you know what it might have been? It might have been one of those times, the time that you got the Jameson. And and I just absolutely did not care for the Jameson at all. And you were like, "Well, go pick out another whiskey to try just while we're sitting and talking during the podcast." I was like, "All right." And I went over and I was like, "I don't think I've had the George T. Stagg." And I poured myself, a normal pour as I would pour any other whiskey, and I didn't realize how strong it was. It doesn't say like triple X strength, It was just, it just says barrel strength or whatever, and I didn't realize what that necessarily meant. I didn't look, and I took a sip of that. I was like, shoot, man, that is some strong whiskey.
Yeah, it's definitely a punch in the face.
Yeah, there's no. You need a little bit of water with that whiskey.
You do. It is recommended to water this one down a little bit, as it's just so strong. Most barrel proof or cask strength is in the 50s percent alcohol, and this one's 64.1. So it's just it is really strong. It is really pungent. But for how strong it is pretty tasty. The flavor is very good on it, but a couple drops of water would go a long way.
Yep. And I teased it out there in the regular episode. I am just drinking something we had probably a month or two ago. now. I guess you hear you're tinking your glasses over on the other end of the on the other town.
I'm smelling my George T. Stagg over here.
I'm smelling it from here because it's that strong. No, I am drinking the Empire Redwood Empire rye whiskey that we had on the podcast together. So probably a month and a half or 2 months ago. But just as nice as ever, nice and smooth and caramelly and sweet and florally and just a nice, beautiful whiskey. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah, it was a good one. I liked, that's a rye, correct?
It is a rye, yeah.
It is rye.
What gave it away that I said Redwood Empire rye?
Did you say rye? I didn't hear you.
Nothing gets past you, Hattie.
Nothing gets past me at all. I have to say, when you're recording a podcast across town, and you're not looking the person right in the eye, and you're kind of getting distracted by looking at your own notes and trying your own stuff. That bits and pieces are lost.
That's true. Yeah.
Bits and pieces are definitely lost. I mean, I always have the bowl of fruit on my table where we usually record, and I'm looking at these lemons over here, and they're just bright yellow. I just keep looking at them.
Yep.
I don't know why.
I miss that
I got my whiskey over here to try. I get sidetracked real easy.
I miss that bowl of fruit. I miss that. I miss looking at you and getting sidetracked and all that. I miss making funny faces when you're trying to do your intros and all that good stuff.
I know. Throwing you off in the podcast just isn't the same over the telephone.
It's not cool. I don't care for it.
Which I already threw you off once in this episode. Our listeners probably won't notice it because we're going to cut that part out. But
hopefully, yeah, about 5 minutes in, right when we did our ad read there, Hattie threw it to me a little bit earlier than I was anticipating.
I just threw it right to you. I thought you were ready.
Well, I was ready for the ad read. I just wasn't ready for it to come right then. So we had.
That's what I like to do on the Grown Man podcast. Yeah. I like to keep you young, Tommy. I like to keep you on your toes. Like to keep that brain sharp.
Yeah. You'll keep me young because I'm gonna have to, as soon as the episode releases, I'm gonna have to go through and make sure that you actually did take that part out, so we don't sound like a bunch of hacks over here, not knowing what the heck we're doing, because that has happened occasionally.
It has. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to listen to the whole thing and edit everything and get it all well when you're working a full-time job. You only have so much time to get it out there and get everything done the way it should be and get it out on time. And we record on Mondays. This one goes out on Tuesdays. So there's not a lot of leeway when you're working a full-time job and getting everything in, and then working on a podcast, getting it out in a timely fashion is difficult sometimes.
Yep.
But we have a good proof for listener over here, and Tommy. He listens to every one of them and always points out things that I missed, and I always try to fix them if I can. Yeah,
I do my best, just so we're not putting out a bad product to the folks, because it could be hard to catch every little thing there, and so if stuff sneaks through and you guys catch it, make sure you let us know, because I don't always listen to all the episode. I'll try to listen if I know that there's a specific area where we had to go back and do an edit just to make sure that Hattie did that, but I don't always catch them all, so let us know.
But I mean, if you were following us on Twitter at Grown Man's Pod, you could let us know if there's anything. You just let us know anything.
You can let us know what you had for breakfast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, we prefer if you let us know what you had for breakfast.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We could compare notes.
We could.
I actually had breakfast this morning since I'm working from home. Cooked myself some eggs and toast.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, I get some of those farm fresh eggs, Hattie, like I grow up at my place.
I got some Eggland's Best.
Eggs,
those are pretty tasty.
Yeah, they're not the best. I'll bet you the yolk on those are real pale.
Yeah, they're actually. I mean, they're better than the normal store brand and regular eggs. Yeah,
I'll tell you,
they're better. They're better than most.
I didn't realize that you could tell a lot about the chicken by the color of the yolk that they lay. Yeah, the darker and more richer the yellow is, the more free range and normal hunting and pecking that they do.
Huh?
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Look at that. Come on down to T-Bone and Hattie's Chicken Farm Emporium, where you guys learn everything there is to know about chicken farming.
Yep.
Look at that.
I will. I'll contribute a lot to that conversation.
Yes, Hattie's got a deep breadth of knowledge about chicken farming.
so much.
Yeah. Are you going to come up and check out our baby chicks, Hattie, when we get our baby chicks in here later this month?
Oh, you never know.
Yeah, okay.
Depends on if we're still under quarantine or not.
That's right. It'll be the Grown Man's Podcast Chicken Farming episode, where me and you do normal chicken farming chores, like shoveling chicken poop.
I'm not going to do any of that. That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, okay.
Nah.
All right.
That doesn't sound fun.
Maybe we'll drink whiskey and shoot our guns.
All right, that sounds good to me.
Okay,
I would do that.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
As always, please follow us on Twitter at Grown Man's Pod. We thank all of our Patreon subscribers. We really do appreciate you supporting the show and our sponsor of the show in Manscaped. That's all I have for tonight. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.